Good evening, my Real News Media TV family. Welcome back to the channel for another news update for January 14, 2024. And in the news this evening, couple murdered at home on Old Harbor Road. A couple was shot and killed at their home on Old Harbor Road in St. Catherine early Sunday morning. The police are still trying to identify the deceased man and woman and establish a motive for the attack. Preliminary reports are that about 4 a.m., residents heard explosions at 46 Old Harbor Road. About 10 a.m., checks were reportedly made at the dwelling and the two bodies seen. The police were alerted. They found the bodies on a bed in the board structure. Further checks revealed wounds to the upper bodies. The scene was processed and the bodies removed to a funeral home. The Major Investigations Division and the St. Catherine North Police are investigating. 55-year-old woman found dead at the St. Anne home. The Key Valley Police in St. Anne are investigating the death of a 55-year-old woman whose body was discovered at her house on Friday evening. The deceased has been identified as Gwendolyn Thompson, otherwise called Pamela, of Cascade District in the parish. Reports are that about 6 p.m. on Friday, residents detected a foul odor coming from the house that she occupied. A group of residents forcibly entered the building and found Thompson's partially decomposed body face down on a bed. The police were summoned and the body removed by a funeral home to be stored for post-mortem. It is reported that Thompson, who lived alone, was last seen alive on January 9. Siblings granted a $300,000 bail re Fisherman's murder case. The siblings who reportedly conspired to murder a fisherman in Wakefield, Trelawney last year were each granted a $300,000 bail when they made their first appearance in the Trelawney Parish Court last week. Sylvia Montague, a 56-year-old babysitter of Moorfield, Wakefield, and her 60-year-old brother, Lester Montague, otherwise called the Judge, a gardener of Tilston Housing Scheme, Bounty Hall, all in Trelawney, are jointly charged with murder and a conspiracy to murder. The charges were laid following the murder of 59-year-old David Brown, otherwise called Dave, a fisherman of Moorfield in Wakefield. Presiding Parish Judge Ruth Lawrence granted the siblings bail with reporting conditions, this after a successful bail application by their attorney Henry McCurdy. Before the March 12 mentioned date was set, the court heard that documents including a post-mortem report remain outstanding in the matter. Reports from the Falmouth Police are that about 5:30 a.m. on Saturday, December 30, 2023, both now accused persons went to Brown's home and forced their way into his house. An altercation reportedly developed among them, during which Sylvia and her brother allegedly used the concrete blocks to hit Brown on his head. Residents heard the noise and alerted the police. On arrival of the law enforcers, the area was searched and Brown was found lying on his back in a pool of blood. Lester and Sylvia Montague were subsequently arrested and charged following an investigation. PNP councillors in St. Catherine join calls for a political ombudsman. The calls are mounting for a political ombudsman to be appointed ahead of local government elections that are due next month, with People's National Party councillors in the St. Catherine Municipal Corporation being the latest group to battle for the reappointment of the official. The office of the political ombudsman was chartered in November 2022, following the end of the tenure of its last holder, Donna Parchment Brown, who was mandated to monitor the adherence to the Code of Conduct that has been agreed to by Jamaica's registered political parties, among other functions. Justice Minister Delroy Chuck at the time said legislation would be brought to subsume the responsibilities of the political ombudsman into the Electoral Commission of Jamaica. That process is yet to begin, but Chuck recently told reporters that when Parliament resumes its sittings later this month, changes are likely to be made to the Political Ombudsman Act so that the functions can be transferred to the ECJ. The legislation is also to be amended to ensure stronger penalties are imposed on those who breach the political codes. During Thursday's monthly meeting of the SCMC, PNP Council for the Waterford Division, Finlay Douglas, said that the appointment of a political ombudsman is vital as a campaigning for the municipal elections is on the horizon. I speak passionately about this because a few years ago, the division that I represent had to seek the intervention of the political ombudsman because we were aggrieved as a community and equity was served, Douglas recounted. While agreeing with his PNP colleagues' points, Spanish Town Mayor Norman Scott disagreed with the government's pending decision to merge the functions of the political ombudsman into the ECJ. In also reflecting on political history, the mayor cautioned the government to don't get back to the 1980s. The run-up to the 1980s general elections was marred by significant political violence nationally. Scott said he was living in the older capital Spanish Town at the time as a young man, and he will not forget what happened during the period. So I am warning the government not to go down those dreadful roads again. We need to have the political ombudsman, Scott insisted. But counsel for the Above Rocks division, the Jamaica Labour Party's Neil Powell, argued that there is no need for a political ombudsman because in his view, there is a level of political maturity in Jamaica now. Powell, in elaborating on his point, said political violence is on the down low and any expenditure of funds to resume the political ombudsman's office could be used in other areas of the economy. The private sector organization of Jamaica and the Citizens Action for Free and Fair Elections are among the groups that have been lobbying for a political ombudsman to be reappointed. The PSOJ's call in particular was bolstered after a news report earlier this month showed children painting a sidewalk green and white, which reportedly occurred in the West Central St. Andrew constituency of Prime Minister Andrew Holness. JTA President calls for more funding for special education. Jamaica Teachers Association President Leighton Johnson has joined the call for policymakers to provide more funds to advance the cause of special education in the country. Johnson made the call while speaking at the Church Teachers College Conference on Special Education on Friday in Manchester. While commending the college for demonstrating leadership in highlighting the importance of special education as a key pillar of the sector, Johnson acknowledged that more needs to be done. Against this background, Johnson highlighted that special education continues to be plagued by issues such as inaccessibility and a lack of trained teachers to adequately address the demographic. Our context is of such that there are students who require special education existing in the regular classroom. These students are unable to operate like the regular student, yet our teachers are being held to account for their performance. There is the need for greater access to special education centers, as there are still parishes in our country that do not have special education facilities, said Johnson. There are still families who have to hide individuals and the members of their families who suffer from some special education need and do not have the ability to fund or access same. There is the need for additional assessment centers to improve our country's ability to diagnose and to provide prescriptions for treatment of our children. Additionally, more teachers are needed to acquire the requisite skills and the competencies to participate in the assessment process with a view of reducing the wait time for more students, he added. Johnson charged that special education requires immediate attention from the Ministry of Education as he called on policymakers to make the requisite funds available to advance the matter. I join in the call for policymakers to provide the required funding to advance the cause of special education. I urge our corporate partners to be a part of this noble cause. Indeed, special education needs funding, Johnson stressed. We speak of inclusivity. We speak of every child reaching his or her full potential. Special education will not and should not be left behind. The Jamaica Teachers Association stands firmly behind this cause and will continue to advocate for special education. The University of Wisconsin-Whitewater partners annually with Church Teachers College to host the Special Education Conference, which is held on the second Friday in January.